Them is now at an area hospital in critical condition. As for the suspect, law enforcement officials tell us that person died of a self-inflicted gunshot wound. And that is why we are here right now. You see on your screen an official stepping up to the podium. I'm going to stop talking and listen in.
Let me start off by saying that I'm a person who believes very, very strongly in the power of prayer, and that prayer changes things. And so I'm going to ask everyone, please join me in praying for the families of the folks who lost their lives today. Pray for the speedy recovery for those who are hurt and were injured in what happened today. But maybe even more to the point, we're a country and a city that needs prayer. So I'm going to ask you all to join me also in praying for this city, that we can come together at a time like this, and that we can be there for one another the way we always have in times like this, to support one another, help us all get through this very difficult time, not just in our city, but in our country. And that's why I'd ask you to pray for our nation. There's a lot going on right now in our country. A lot of it's confusing. It's a scary time. I've got children. I've got 3 young children. And I'm here to tell you that it is challenging to explain to them what's going on in our country right now. But I said before, and I'll say it again, I believe in the power of prayer to change things. And it can change the hearts of people. It can change this country. It can change this city. So please pray for everyone who is affected by today's tragedy. I also want to say thank you to the Dallas Police Department, and say thank you to the Dallas Sheriff's Department, Dallas County Sheriff's Department, Texas Department of Public Safety, and all of our various federal law enforcement partners who acted so quickly today to make sure that today's tragedy wasn't worse than what it was. So on behalf of the city of Dallas, I want to say thank you to all of you. And you're going to hear from some of those folks later, but I want to let you know that we appreciate what you all do, not just today, but every day, to help keep us all safe. And lastly, and this is really important, I would ask all of the city of Dallas residents who can hear me right now, let's be patient, let's remain calm, and let's let our law enforcement partners, our police department, do their job. This is an active investigation. There's still a lot of unanswered questions. And I want to encourage all of you to exercise a little bit of restraint and allow them to do their job to help make sure this continues to be a safe city, and that they can help us figure out what happened here today. But with that, I want to say, again, thank you to all the folks who came out this morning from our law enforcement community. I'll turn it over to our police chief, Daniel Como, to speak a little bit more directly to the investigation itself. And with that, Chief Como, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Today at approximately 6:40 a.m., we received a assist the officer call. We responded to the call, got to the scene, and we later learned that we had 4 individuals that were shot, 2 of them deceased, including the shooter. The DPD was able to locate the shooter, who was deceased. We're going to be working this investigation shoulder to shoulder with our federal partners. The FBI is on scene, and right now I'm going to introduce you to the SAC of the Dallas Field Division, FBI Joe Rumrock.
Yeah, good morning. My name's Joe Rothrock. I'm the special agent in charge of the Dallas FBI field office. I want to first start by thanking our partners in local law enforcement, specifically the Dallas Police Department, for their quick and timely response. I can confirm at this time that the FBI is investigating this incident as an act of targeted violence. It is unfortunately just the most recent example we've seen of targeted violence, to include here in North Texas, where back on July 4th, we saw a coordinated attack carried out against an immigration detention center in Alvarado, Texas. What I can also share with you is that early evidence that we've seen from rounds that were found near the suspected shooter contain messages that are anti-ICE in nature. Again, this is just the most recent example of this type of attack. This will be a whole of government response. There will be no resource not utilized to bring all those individuals who are responsible to bring them to justice and to hold them accountable. While we're not releasing identities of any victims at this time, what I can confirm for you is no members of law enforcement were hurt during this attack. If any member of the public has information that would help the FBI's investigation, I would ask that you please report that to 1-800-CALL-FBI. Again, any piece of information will be helpful, but this will be an ongoing investigation between us, a number of federal partners, and our local partners, again, to ensure that anyone responsible is held accountable. With that, I will turn it over to my counterpart from the ICE Enforcement and Removal Office.
Good morning. My name is Joshua Johnson. I'm the acting field office director for ICE Dallas. I'll be brief with my comments, but I do want to start off by saying thank you to the Dallas Police Department, Dallas FBI, HSI, CBP, ATF, and virtually every law enforcement officer in North Texas for your support. This is the second time I've had to stand in front of you and talk about a shooter at one of my facilities, and I think that the takeaway from all of this is that the rhetoric has to stop. There are people out there who are seeing what is being placed online, and they're coming and they're doing acts of violence against ICE employees. So that's kind of all I have for today, is that it's just got to stop. It's dangerous, and people are losing their lives. Thank you.
Thank you all so much for coming. We really appreciate it. Again, thank you all so much. As it was said here today, if you do have any information, reach out to 1-800-CALL-FBI. Thank you. Thank you.
This needs to stop. Violence is wrong. Politically motivated violence is wrong. It was 2 weeks ago today that we saw a political assassination in Utah that tore the heart out of much of this country. This is the third shooting in Texas directed at ICE or CBP. This must stop. To every politician who is using rhetoric demonizing ICE and demonizing CBP, stop. To every politician demanding that ICE agents be doxxed and calling for people to go after their families, stop. This has very real consequences. Look, in America, we disagree, that's fine, that's the democratic process, but your political opponents are not Nazis. We need to learn to work together without demonizing each other, without attacking each other, and I want to say thank you. I want to say thank you to the brave men and women of law enforcement. I want to say thank you to the brave men and women of ICE and CBP and everyone who puts their lives on the line to keep us safe. The divisive rhetoric tragically has real consequences. I hope that every one of us will pray, number one, for the safety of law enforcement that are risking their lives to keep us safe. Number two, for the health of those who were shot and injured today. We still don't know the full details of who was injured, but for the families also of the victims of this shooting. Violence has no place. It is wrong. And we should come together. If we want to have a debate about immigration policies, we can do so in the halls of Congress without demonizing each other, and especially without demonizing the men and women who every day put on a badge and go risk their lives to keep us safe. And we should not be putting language out there that inspires madmen to commit evil crimes. Our prayers are with the men and women of law enforcement, and we ought to come together and have some decency across the political aisle to say this violence is wrong and it needs to stop.
Senator, have you been told that immigrant detainees were the victims of today's shooting?
My understanding is the details of who the victims are still being ascertained, so I don't want to go ahead of law enforcement releasing these details. What they have said is that no law enforcement was injured, and so that's a natural inference, but I don't know the details.
Special Agent, can you talk a little bit about some of the evidence you mentioned earlier? Just for clarity, I think there's going to be a lot of questions. Our understanding is that some of the shell casings had specific writing that was relevant to the voting. Give us more information.
So I'm not going to go into any more details at this time. We will come back to you when we have more details to share. Again, our goal here will be transparency as those details become available, but we are still in the early stages of an investigation. Information is still coming in. When we have more details, we will come back to this group.
And just clarity as well on the victims. I think it's a question that people are asking. Can you just get clarity and make sure we're reporting and transparency on who the victims were?
I'm not going to be identifying victims at this time. The only thing I will confirm at this time is no law enforcement was injured. Certainly you can respect law enforcement's need to make notifications.
Why are we not saying that they were the detainees that were shot?
At this point in time, we're not going to take any additional questions from law enforcement. Again, I'd ask for you to respect the fact that this is an ongoing investigation, and as more details come available...
We're not asking for the names of the victims.
I understand.
In a general sense,
I will,
if the victims are the detainees...
The only thing I can say right now is no law enforcement was injured this morning as part of the attack. I won't be taking any more questions, neither will law enforcement this time. We'll come back to you later today or in the coming days when we have additional information. Thank you for your time.
Thank you a lot. Thanks a lot.
Okay, you were just hearing from officials there speaking outside an ICE facility in Dallas, Texas. This is after several people were shot early this morning around 6:40 at that Dallas ICE facility. Now, from what we're learning from sources, I know officials there say they don't want to talk more about the potential victims and all of this, but sources are telling us that 3 detainees were actually shot outside that ICE facility. 2 of them were killed. 1 of them is now in the hospital in critical condition. We're also learning from our sources here at CBS News that the gunman died of a self-inflicted gunshot wound. So let's bring in CBS News national security contributor Sam Vinograd for much more on this. Sam, thank you for joining us. I mean, we hear from law enforcement officials there saying the only thing they can tell us at this point is that no law enforcement official was killed in the shooting. But this brings up the question then of the rhetoric in this country that has led to shootings like this. We heard one of the officials speaking earlier, and he mentioned that right next to that gunman were several evidence, I guess, that showed that they were speaking out or against a law enforcement officials, specifically ICE agents. So what does this tell you, I guess, at this point about the rhetoric in this country and the need to dial things back, I suppose?
Well, having worked in the space of preventing, detecting, and mitigating acts of targeted violence and terrorism, I will say there are a range of factors that can lead an individual to radicalize and mobilize to violence. Speech and hateful rhetoric and messages that call for the doxing of law enforcement agents and or violence against law enforcement agents can certainly be taken by individuals as a call to violence. And while we have First Amendment protections in this country, there are some very dark corners of the internet and some not very dark corners of the internet that allow for rhetoric directing violence or inspiring violence to percolate. And social media platforms, I worked a lot with them when I was at the Department of Homeland Security, are and need to continue to take steps to employ algorithms that try to detect language and images that do inspire violence. But that's not the only answer here. We also have an issue when it comes to gun violence in this country writ large. And we know that there have been a range of lone offenders who have been able to perpetuate attacks against a range of targets in this country. FBI Director Cruz testified on multiple occasions that the greatest terrorism-related threat facing this country is from lone offenders and racially and ethnically motivated violent extremists and anti-government violent extremists. And unfortunately, we're seeing that play out in real time.
And Sam, real quick, from your experience, what could come next in this investigation? We know the suspect took their own life, but I assume officials are still trying to determine who they are and why they would do something like this.
Certainly, we have learned that the individual died by suicide. However, the immediate focus here will be on ascertaining whether this individual mobilized and radicalized to violence alone. Are there any other individuals that the suspect was in touch with? And are there potentially any other related threats underway? At the same time, in this kind of atmosphere, there's often a very tense moment after these kinds of attacks when law enforcement and intelligence officials are on the watch for copycat attacks as well as retaliatory attacks. So law enforcement and intelligence officials will be investigating this particular threat stream and trying to ascertain whether there are any related ones.
Okay. Sam Vinograd, thank you so much for your time today. Now, CBS News Justice correspondent Scott McFarland joins us now for much more. Scott, good to see you again. We appreciate you making time for this very serious and deadly situation. I want to ask what your takeaways were from that news conference we just listened to.
Yeah, the FBI special agent in charge in Dallas had perhaps the most impactful update there, saying that this is a targeted attack and that there were anti-ICE immigration and customs enforcement messages. The FBI director, Kash Patel, a few moments ago, posted an image on social media of a shell casing that had the words anti-ICE on them. So this is evidence from the scene posted by the FBI director pretty early in the investigation, mind you, that would reinforce what the special agent in charge said. I wish you could scroll down that social media post to see the image. Nicely done. If you go further down, you'll see images of a set of shell casings. There it is. See the second from the right, the anti-ICE message, according to Director Patel. And therein is a bigger issue. Even it transcends this particular attack. These signatures on shell casings, on things from the firings of guns. We've heard that before, haven't we? From the Charlie Kirk assassination, where they allegedly found shell casings with those gamer memes or other messages on them. You've heard about shell casings in the Luigi Mangione case in New York. This type of signature could inspire copycats. Law enforcement's been telling us that for weeks, and you see this now. It manifests itself in another incident today in Dallas.
Yeah, it certainly did. And you're right there. It does seem like these suspects, these shooters, are copying each other. I want to ask you, because earlier when we spoke to you, you walked us through security concerns. Can you give us any updates about what we might know about this particular ICE facility where the shooting happened?
Let's speak narrowly first about this facility in Dallas.
Okay.
It's the subject of a bomb threat. A few weeks ago, the person believed responsible is being charged in the federal court in Dallas and has been held since the bomb threat in late August. It's been the site of protests. Not that protests are a danger, but the Federal Protective Service, which is in charge of protecting federal buildings, and the overseers in Congress have alerted that there are more protests in front of federal buildings now, significantly more than there were months ago. Not necessarily a danger or a threat, but it's worth monitoring. But that said, that's one of 9,000 or so federal offices and federal complexes in America. 9,000. There are thousands of Federal Protective Service officers, but you can see there that there's only so much manpower to protect all of these places. The vulnerability of federal complexes, federal employees, including those involving immigration and customs enforcement, have been a profound and growing concern here in Washington that have today broken through.
All right, Scott McFarland, thank you so much for your analysis. Appreciate your time today. And of course, we want to take you back to that tweet from the FBI Director Kash Patel. Here is what he had to say. He said, this morning, just before 7 a.m. local time, an individual fired multiple rounds at a Dallas, Texas ICE facility, killing one, wounding several others before taking his own life. FBI, DHS, ATF are on the ground with Dallas PD and state authorities. While the investigation is ongoing, an initial review of the evidence shows an ideological motive behind this attack. And We want to show you that photo that we showed you earlier of the evidence, I suppose, at the scene there. We know one of the unspent shell casings, this is from the FBI director speaking, recovered was engraved with the phrase anti-ICE. Now, more updates will be forthcoming. These despicable, I should say, politically motivated attacks against law enforcement are not a one-off. We are only miles from Prairieland, Texas, where just 2 months ago an individual ambushed a separate ICE facility targeting their officers. It has to end, and the FBI and our partners will lead these investigative efforts to see to it that those who target our law enforcement are pursued and brought to the fullest extent of justice. Thankfully, no law enforcement personnel were injured. Please pray for the injured and deceased. Again, that message, that post on X is coming from Kash Patel, the FBI director. In the picture there, you can see that shell casing that clearly says anti-ICE. CBS News correspondent Omar Villafranca is live in Dallas, and he joins us now. Omar, did we get any details about the victims here? Officials there clearly ending the news conference early and not wanting to answer too many questions, it seems.
Yeah, we're not learning a lot of details about the victims at all, in fact, which is a bit frustrating to us on the ground here. Yeah. Some senior law enforcement officials have told CBS News that of the 3 people who were shot and the 2 who are dead, they were in fact detainees. When we were asking the special agent here and also trying to talk to police and investigators about that, they didn't want to answer any questions on that. One of the questions that we want to ask is, what are they going to do to increase security at these ICE facilities, not only for the ICE agents, but for detainees? Mm-hmm. And we did not get an answer on that. So we're trying to see exactly, they say they're going to have another press conference once they get more information. Hopefully they'll answer that question again. Obviously, we're going to work our sources in D.C. to find out a little bit more about that. You saw the casings that the FBI director put out and that Scott McFarland was talking about. Mind you, we are here in Dallas. This was found near that facility, the ICE facility where it happened. In Alvarado, just a few weeks ago, there was another incident at an ICE detention facility over there. And keep in mind, I want to paint this picture. This is not one of those large facilities where thousands of people are held. This is almost kind of like a processing facility. It's a smaller facility where thousands of people are not there. This is almost like a way station, a stop on the way to a bigger spot. There are ICE. I've seen ICE operations working here in Dallas at the federal courthouse, where they would walk out of the courtroom and immediately be detained by DHS and ICE officials and taken into custody. As a matter of fact, I've talked to attorneys before who have said that they've tried to reach their clients inside that facility, and it's been very difficult. So this is not a place that's heavily advertised. There's no big signage on it. So if you're looking for that facility here in Dallas, you'd have to know where it is and have to look it up.
Wow, that's a very, very important context there. Omar Villafranca, thank you so much. We appreciate it. And of course, we have much more news ahead right here on CBS News 24/7, including as we wait for more answers from law enforcement officials about that deadly shooting at an ICE facility in Dallas, Texas. 2 people are dead, 1 person is in the hospital, and officials say the suspected gunman took their own lives. More information right here on CBS News 24/7, so stay with us.
What happens when reporters take you inside the story?
I've been asking for over a year and a half for access into this place, and this is the first time we're getting it.
You get the all-new CBS Evening News every weeknight.
This is CBS.
This is NCIS. You put on that uniform, you agree to protect the person next to you, no matter what. Welcome to Australia.
Match made in heaven.
Watch out! Are you hungry? Shout you a crock burger.
NCIS Sydney. All episodes now streaming on Paramount Plus. Returns CBS Fall.
I'm Erin Moriarty of 48 Hours, and of all the cases I've covered, this is the one that troubles me most. Listen to Murder in the Orange Grove, the troubled case against Crosley Green, wherever you get your podcasts.
Be in the know, even when you're on the go, with the CBS Mornings podcast.
Some news you can use at the grocery store.
Better mornings start better days.
When you look good, feel good, you do good.
That's right.
Listen to CBS Mornings on the go on Apple Podcasts.
What happens when the world's best journalists come together?
Write a prescription for the healing of America.
We're retired and this is our paradise.
Now it's gone.
You get the stories of America every night. You get the all-new CBS Evening News every weeknight.
I can only describe it as evil.
Follow and listen to Train to Kill, The Dog Trainer, The Heiress, and The Bodyguard on the free Odyssey app or wherever you get your podcasts.
My job can get dangerous sometimes, but I'm very good at what I do. I know you're scared. I'm here to help.
They said you were the best.
Your daughter hired me to bring you home. I made her promise I would never stop looking.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
You hear about the reward?
Come in.
Okay.
Tracker. All episodes now streaming on Paramount Plus and returning CBS Fall.
Welcome back. We continue to follow that breaking news from earlier this morning around 6:40 in Dallas, Texas. At an ICE facility, there was a deadly shooting. We heard from officials just moments ago, but they didn't take a lot of questions or even give too many details about exactly what happened. Law enforcement officials, though, are telling us here at CBS News that 3 detainees were shot. 2 of them were killed. Another one is in the hospital in critical condition. They also tell us the suspected gunman took his own life. We know our team at CBS News Texas, they are covering this for us right now. And we're also seeing a tweet here. This is a post, rather, an X from Governor Greg Abbott saying Texas fully supports ICE. But let's listen in to our team at CBS News Texas and their coverage.
And the Dallas Police Department to get to the bottom of the assassin's motive. Again, we just want to provide context here to say, while this may have been a targeted attack as far as the suspected shooter targeting ICE agents, we know that no law enforcement officials were hurt in the midst of this shooting. So that could mean that there were either detainees or potentially visitors to this facility or potentially employees that are not considered or classified as law enforcement that were injured in this shooting. We are awaiting details from Dallas Police and the FBI on who were the victims in this tragic shooting this morning in Dallas, Texas.
Meanwhile, a very familiar face we also saw during that press conference too, which was Senator Ted Cruz, and he was very emotional during this press conference, just very adamant, saying, quote, you know, this needs to stop. To every politician demonizing ICE and DPD, you know, please stop. He thanked the men and the women of ICE and also DPD for all of their work there this morning, but just really calling on, you know, the state and the nation as a whole to stop the attacks.
He went on to say that this is politically motivated violence that is wrong. Third shooting in Texas directed at ICE or CBP, condemning politicians for demonizing ICE, saying that political opponents are not Nazis. And he went on to thank law enforcement, CBP, and ICE as well. Again, this is not the first time that an ICE detention facility in North Texas has been targeted. We know that previously, earlier in August, this exact same facility was targeted by a bomb threat. That suspect has been detained for the last few weeks as a result of the charges that he is facing. And then we know down in Johnson County, just south of Fort Worth, the Prairieland Detention Facility was also recently the site of an incident that happened where, again, protesters then were gathered together. There were shots fired, and that ended up shooting a Alvarado police officer who was shot in the neck, thankfully survived. But again, a shooting situation that unfolded at an ICE detention facility on the other side of the North Texas area.
Now that we just heard from officials and law enforcement just moments ago, and we have a little bit more information, we want to turn things back over and bring in one of our senior reporters and anchors, Ken Molestina here. Ken, we know that you have covered immigration for years, and you have contacts over at ICE. You know, tell us now that you're there on the scene, what are you hearing? What are you learning this morning?
Well, you know, first things first, I think we should point out a couple of things that really stood out earlier today with this news conference. Dallas's Mayor Eric Johnson asking not only the city, but really the country right now, asking for prayers for Dallas. And I think the reason that stood out to me is because that speaks to the sort of situation that we're dealing with right now. That speaks to the attention that this event has now drawn across the country and presumably across the world right now. We know now that this was a targeted attack. That was what the FBI is telling us. As you just mentioned a little bit ago, there are even pictures now on social media indicating that the bullets, the casings that were recovered here on the scene had some sort of anti-ICE messaging on them. So obviously that leads investigators to believe that this was some sort of a targeted attack. The one thing that we kept asking over and over that officials would not confirm is exactly who the victims are. The only thing that they would say over and over again is that there were no law enforcement officials that were hit as a result. We also wanted to know how many rounds were fired, what type of a weapon was used, and really from what area this may have happened in the event that this was some sort of a sniper attack. We don't know that right now. That's not information that officials are willing to confirm. They would only once again say that no law enforcement officials were shot in this, and that in fact that this was a targeted attack as they are investigating it now. Earlier this morning, in an earlier conversation that we had with Carmen and Madison, we spoke about Police Chief Cuomo's previous work with federal law enforcement, his position with the DEA, leading the DEA's field office out of Houston, and how he would be leaning heavily into that experience right now as this investigation continues. That was something that was reiterated once again here at this news conference about working hand in hand with all the federal law enforcement partners. To that extent, I can tell you we have seen FBI out here, we have seen ATF, obviously Department of Homeland Security, and that includes the ERO and other departments or other divisions rather within ICE that are handling this investigation right now. So again, still a lot to be learned right now, but the big news here is that this is now being investigated, in fact, as a targeted attack. What we didn't hear is exactly confirmation on whether this was a targeted attack on ICE agents or whether this was a targeted attack on possible detainees that were with the ICE agents at the time of this shooting. And this happened at about 6:40 in the morning, so things are still relatively dark out here at that time. Things are kind of sort of getting going right now. The building may not have been officially open, but there's certainly activity that takes place here at this building 24/7. So again, we're here on the scene. The rain has let up. That's important to note because that's going to allow for more of the physical investigation of the evidence that's been here on the scene to now continue. It's been a rainy morning up until this point, so we can only anticipate that there might be more news coming throughout the day. But as we mentioned earlier, Carmen and Madison, this is one of those investigations that will more than likely change throughout the day, and it will change frequently. And of course, we're committed to staying on top of this for you and bringing you the very latest information.
Yeah, of course, Ken, we know that you were tapping into your sources throughout the morning. You mentioned that there were quite a few immigration attorney offices right around this part of town, especially surrounding the ICE detention facility. We just want to give you a little perspective of what we're seeing here from the studio. But our chopper has been flying over that area, and there's also a crime scene that's been set up underneath one of these kind of elevated law offices. There's movement on that roof as well as down on the ground by a vehicle. Are you hearing anything about that from where you're at or any additional details?
No, we know that the scene right now is wide. We had a difficult time getting inside because of the fact that this scene is so widespread. But we know that there is attention right now, not too far from where we're standing, but probably from the chopper. You can see better than I can, because right now they're keeping us at a pretty good distance from the actual scene of the ICE offices. We're literally maybe about 2 blocks away from where I'm standing right now, just due north of the ICE facility. So the secondary scene that you're talking about, that's going to be over to my left-hand side, and that's an area where, from where I'm standing right now, I don't have a clear vantage point. But we do know that, again, there's law enforcement throughout, and they are looking at different areas in here. But again, that's all part of the investigation that is going on right now. There's also mobile command centers that have been set up, presumably for local law enforcement as well as federal law enforcement. So this is an area right now that is going to be, quite frankly, under the microscope for quite some time.
Okay, Ken Molestina, our boots there on the ground. Thank you so much for your perspective. We certainly appreciate it.
Local officials that we saw on the ground there for that press conference included at least elected officials. That would be both Dallas Mayor Eric Johnson as well as Senator Ted Cruz. We have also heard from Governor Greg Abbott this morning. He was not in attendance at that press conference. Likely he's down in Austin this morning. Our political reporter Jack Fink is digging into exactly where he's at and if he's going to address the state later today. But earlier this morning, he did say, quote, on X, Texas fully supports ICE. Both the Texas Department of Public Safety and Texas National Guard work closely with ICE. This assassination will not slow our arrest, detention, or deportation of illegal immigrants. We will work with ICE and the Dallas Police Department to get to the bottom of the assassin's motive. We will offer ICE additional support to assist their operations. That is again from Texas Governor Greg Abbott earlier this morning in response to the Dallas ICE facility shooting that happened around 6:40 this morning.
We want to go back to that shot that we had from our CBS News Texas chopper that is just scouring over the scene there on the ground this morning.
Okay, you're hearing from our team there at CBS News Texas following this breaking news of a deadly shooting at an ICE facility in Dallas, Texas. We, of course, have much more news ahead right here on CBS News 24/7, including that breaking news of the deadly shooting. So stay with us. We'll be right back.
What happens when you get conversation over conflict?
I think they've taught me to have grace and compassion.
When we follow the human side of the headline.
I'm not asking that we ignore disability, rather that we do not ignore ability.
When news takes you where the story happens.
We've just crossed into Lebanon.
When the world's best journalists come together to cover your world, you get the all-new CBS Evening News every weeknight. It's the most popular F word in Washington, fraud.
Is it true that the Social Security number of just about every single American is available for sale on the dark web?
An eye-opening 60 Minutes report.
That's chilling.
It's time for 60 Minutes.